Do you want me to call cops though? Hey, where's this wicket for? Oh.
And good Sunday evening to you, Mark Roseman, AJ Carter on this beautiful Sunday in New York. Glad you're aboard. Glad you're either watching or listening to us this Sunday evening. It's time now for the Major League Baseball Report with John Coppinger, sponsored by Cardboard Memories, which is one of Long Island's most reputable memorabilia retail stores for over 29 years. The owner of Cardboard Memories, Scott Stamell, is known for his knowledge and savvy of authentic autographs, and he's been featured on HBO Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. Cardboard Memories possesses the honesty and integrity one would want and need from a memorabilia source. Cardboard Memories is located at 6401 Jericho Turnpike, Comac, New York. Visit them on the web at cardboardmemories.com or follow them on Facebook or Instagram. And if you are going down to Cardboard Memories, John, I think the thing you really want to pick up right now is some sort of Jason DeGrom memorabilia, because this is just, what did I say? I said Jacob DeGrom.
DeGrom, you can get cheap.
You want to get Jacob DeGrom memorabilia because he is just doing something that's just, it's insane. You look at the two greatest seasons, pitcher's career. For me, it's Bob Gibson and Pedro Martinez. I'm having a tough night. It doesn't, low 1 ERAs. Those two seasons for me are the bellwether. So, John, I mean, and I guess we are hyping it in New York. I don't know if the rest of the baseball world really realizes what's going on with Jacob. John, you there?
We're
having a problem with John. All right,
so let's talk a little baseball then on this. I think, to me, the interesting thing about DeGrom this year, and he's really good again this year, is that they finally started to score runs for him, and he may, in addition to the microscopic ERA, has some wins to show for it finally. He has to hold them to 0 runs, but at least they got 3 last night, 4. It's if they score for him, he leads the game with a lead, and by the way, the bullpen holds it. He'll finally have the wins to match the rest of the pitching.
Right. I mean, but this ERA is just insane. It's never been done, at all. I mean, Gibson at this point in that point was double what DeGrom is at this point.
After that, because of Gibson's year, he lowered them out.
Right.
And which gets us to other things. Let's go to other pitching stories in baseball. Lowering them out. What are they going to do? The Atlantic League is going to try moving it back 1 foot. But Major League Baseball is trying something else. They're going to crack down on foreign substances. So, Mark, what do you think in terms of the effect of foreign substances, be it the Gaylord-Perry Vaseline ball, or who was it who had the emery board, the various different things? What do you think is going to, A, can they crack down? And B, what is it going to do? Will that be something that gets finally tilts the pendulum a little bit more in the hitter's favor?
I don't know how they're going to be able to crack down. I mean, they've been using foreign substances forever, going to the mouth, putting the Vaseline in the brim of the hat and everything. So, it's going to be difficult to crack down. The other thing is, though, the problem with the pitching is because with the Rapsodo machine, we talked about that. Yeah. They have the ability to look after every inning and increase their spin rate.
Metrics that make it almost unfair because the batters don't get the same metrics. They can see how to adjust. But is there something, what else can they do? Look, I think you agree with me, Mark, baseball needs to do something to get action back in the game. Home run or strikeout or anything else is not an interesting game. They're losing people. You need something that gets people on base, that gets action. Clearly, the sabermetrics says don't play small ball. Well, you have to encourage playing small ball. Look, we love to see DeGrom pitch. We love to see DeGrom pitch the way he's pitching. When you get a third-line starter, having games that are similar to DeGrom, not equal to DeGrom, but similar, something's going on.
Right. Well, that's what we talked about. I mean, and that's what the Atlantic League is trying all these experimentations to get the action back in baseball. The other quick story is the fact that the New York Yankees, they're looking to do something. They have to shake it. Right.
Something's happened to them. Clearly, the team they had put together in the offseason doesn't work. There are parts that don't fit. and they need a center field because Brett Gardner was not his, great career with the Yankees, can't do it anymore.
Right. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break on the other side. We hope to have Jim Lampley with us, so keep it tuned right here to Sports Talk New York on the 365 Sports Talk Network. Brett, how do we sound?
Okay, so AJ sounds better than you.
That's just natural talent.
That could be, but to the point where I said to myself, I'm still going to sit there tonight. I don't know why. It could be a room thing. It could be a weather. But usually the further you go,
Yeah,
the better.
on a wired connection, that shouldn't matter.
No, it does.
No, it does.
There's things in this roof. We used to do it from down there, and we couldn't hear a thing. But what's going on with the phone?
We don't know. We're going to see. We just swapped out the plug. Maybe it was the plug.
It's the same phone you always use?
Yeah. And we can't switch it for Lampley because he's calling in. Hopefully
It
it's
can't
going
be
to
the phone.
Well, no, it was. Remember we had a problem with Mike's
That was
phone?
Mike's phone. But I'm saying he's been using this phone
Yeah.
for months. Are you going on with another correspondent?
He's going to be calling.
Oh, Lampley's next?
And welcome back to Sports Talk New York on the 365 Sportscast Network. AJ Carter and Mark Roseman with you this Sunday. We're waiting for Jim Lampley to call in. Hopefully we'll have our phone issues resolved. For some reason, John Carpenter, who hears us every week, wasn't able to hear us this week. So it could be a very interesting show if we're having issues with the phone.
Let's while we're waiting for Jim, let's talk a little more baseball. Looking at Yankees, Mike, you weigh in. What do you think? What is going on? Yankee roster, you think they have to do something? You think they will do something?
Yeah, I personally think that they're going to make a big trade. I don't think it's a little issue that the Yankees have. I think it's their entire offense is dead. No matter what Judge is doing, no matter what DJ's doing, even though he's not really playing that well right now, I can see them going to make a big splash somewhere and get a big name center fielder, big name shortstop. They need to address it soon, though.
Well, this is not the Yankees of old. This is not the George Steinbrenner Yankees. They'll go out and they'll spend whatever they have to get the player they have to. Things have changed a little bit, over the years with Hal and Hank, when they took over the team. It's not the same. Hal doesn't seem to want to spend the way his father did. And will they go out? Will they, at all costs, sell the entire farm system for the one guy who can do the 1 year, maybe 2 years in center field? And is it Ketel Marte?
It'd be interesting to see. They're going to have to go out and see who they can get in the open market. I don't know if Marte is the guy that puts you over the top.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, we'll have to see. Hold on.
Let's see how we're doing with our technical problems. We may have been Michael, but let's see if we can have technical issues worked out. So we're trying to figure out, if you're looking at baseball, the last I looked, we're leading. Marcus Stroman was having a decent game. They're up 3-0 now. And if you look at what they've done with the pitching, now with DeGrom, Stroman has pitched well, Taiwan Walker has pitched well, and if they can cobble together, if Syndergaard comes back, and if they can finally get Carlos Carrasco in the rotation, I, for one, am nervous every time I see David Peterson take him out. You don't know what you're going to get with him, but I think the Mets are going to get it. What do we do with the Yankees? The Yankees have issues, I think, across the board. Mark, do you have issues? We're looking here to see if we have our Jim Lampley.
Yes, we do. Hopefully the phones will work now. Joining us now is one of the iconic voices. Jim? Hello? Jim? Jim, can you hear us?
Jim, can you hear us? This is AJ Carter at Sports Talk New York. Mark Rose is on the other microphone. Can you hear us? We're having some technical issues. Okay, Mark, let's.
How about Jim? Can you hear me? All right, great. All right, so we're going to start then. Great. Joining us now is one of the most iconic voices of sports. You name it, he's done it. Whether it's college football, Major League Baseball, college basketball, the USFL, NASCAR, Wimbledon, the Super Bowl, 5 Olympics, as well as the classic Wide World of Sports. He was the first program host on New York Sports Talk Radio, WFAN, when it began operations on July 1st, 1987. Was the voice of HBO boxing for over 3 decades, where he called some of the biggest fights in the history of the sport, from the biggest upset in heavyweight championship history, Mike Tyson versus Buster Douglas, to the stirring trilogies between Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, Costello, Arturo Gatti, and Mickey Ward, to the remarkable triumph of 45-year-old George Foreman over Michael Moore in 1994, to the long-awaited showdown between Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson, to the prolific confrontation between Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather. It is a thrill to welcome a true broadcast legend, three-time Emmy winner, a member of the International Boxing Hall of Fame, and the new lead play-by-play voice for the Triller Fight Club, the one and only Jim Lampley. Welcome, Jim. So, saying a long time, back in 1970, before we ever heard of Star Search, American Idol, America's Got Talent, ABC Sports developed a concept for a college-age reporter for NCAA games and launched a nationwide talent hunt to recruit a typical college student for the job. 16 campuses, 432 applicants. You were originally screened out because of your age and you were in grad school, not undergrad, but it led to a position nonetheless. Can you tell us about the first job in the programming planning department at ABC?
It's really your day of running.
Right. No, I know who Myra is, but I don't have as much knowledge that Jim did. But before we get into your history of boxing, I just wanted to touch on a few of some of the other events that you're associated. You are part of one of the greatest moments for me in USA sports history. And what makes it even cooler for me is that while we're all sitting here watching the Miracle on Ice game, you're actually having dinner with Mike Eruzione at the time. Can you tell us about that and what part you played in the 1980 coverage of the Miracle on Ice and the post-dinner, post-game interview with Mike?
Yeah, it's an unbelievable story. The fact that you're having dinner with them while we're actually watching the games back here in the States. Your roots for boxing go way back. Your mom sits you in front of a TV on a Friday night, the night Ray Robinson fought Bobo Olson on Friday Night Fights. But, you know, AJ and I wrote a book about fathers and sons in baseball, and you know how everyone remembers their first live baseball game. But for me, it's fascinating. Your first live boxing match that you went to is one of the most famous ever, and you're 14 years old. Can you tell our audience about the circumstances around that, and let them know which fight that was?
Wow. Wow. I also did read that you have one regret about that fight, the fact that you never saved that ticket stub. And I actually went on a hunt to try and find one on eBay because I wanted to send it to you in hopes it would be like almost Bob Costas' Mickey Mantle, rookie card in his wallet that you'd have but I couldn't find it. But AJ, you want to follow up on that?
Let's talk a little bit about the Tyson Douglas fight and set it up for our audience. Tyson was the baddest guy on the planet, the king of the heavyweight division. Needless to say, this guy busted Douglas in Tokyo. I know the newspaper I worked for at the time, Newsday, chose not to send its boxing writer while the matches to cover the fight because of deadline issues and the time difference, and it wasn't worth sending to the NFL. Tyson was going to win, and of course, he loses, and Wally never lets forget that. So set this up a little bit. You're there, you see this, you're calling the fight with Larry Merchant and Sugar Ray Leonard. What goes through your mind as you're watching, the fight as it develops, and what do you think after when it's over? Absolutely. In some ways,
I think boxing is one of the most challenging of all sports to do play-by-play, as it's not like you have all the analytics you do in other sports. When that round starts, there's no definable pauses where commentators know to jump in and help you out. At times, you're both doing play-by-play and color. How much did watching Don Dunphy and Howard Cosell color the way you announce fights, and how much of an impact did Alex Walu have on your work? And the beauty of all that is that brings us to today, and you're going to be making more great calls as you begin your multi-fight deal on June 19th. Triller Fight Club at Miami's again, full circle, Miami Lone Depot Park. Feature both men and women's undisputed world title fights for the first time. Tell us where people can, find these fights and what they can look forward to. Right. Jim, listen, we could spend, we didn't even touch on baseball. We didn't touch on, you awarding the Super Bowl trophy. We didn't, touch on you with NASCAR. You speaking to the president during a NASCAR presentation. We could literally fill 20 shows. Listen, done. You.
Okay.
Awesome. Jim, thanks so much for your time. More importantly, thanks, as I mentioned, the soundtrack of my sports world. It just ABC's Wild World of Sports, all the great events you've covered. It's actually been a thrill for us to have you on tonight. And trust me, we'll take you up on the offer to have you back. No question about it. Awesome. The one and only Jim Lampley, back with Russ Cohen in the NHL right after this.
LeBrecka must have gotten it the other day.
Yeah. It was good. I mean, you had to edit like 20 questions out.
Stuff I wanted to ask.
I know.
I wanted to do a follow-up.
We didn't do any baseball. We didn't do the Super Bowl.
Tyson Douglas, the great follow-up. Because he had to go immediately on a plane
Right.
to Los Angeles.
We'll have him back on.
To go to a charity
We'll have him
luncheon
back on.
and then do the news.
There, so you ready to go? That's not good. But I wonder what he thinks about like all these YouTubers getting into fights and stuff. He probably does not.
I mean, we'll have him back on. He was good. And plus the fact he didn't star 67 his numbers, so now I have it. So the whole point of
Canadians. I think.
And welcome back to Sports Talk New York on the 365 Sportscast Network. Mark Roseman, AJ Carter with you. If you just tuned in, you just missed an outstanding 30 minutes with Jim Lampley. Great stories. I mean, some of the full circle moments. Yeah, really, really good. But now it's time for the NHL report with Russ Cohen, sponsored by our friends over at SOHO Table Hockey. What's table hockey, you say? Some of us might have grown up with rod hockey, bubble hockey, or even air hockey tables. SOHO Table Hockey has embraced the nostalgia of those old tabletop games and designed a whole new board for the future. Handcrafted with designer wood, state-of-the-art playing surface, unbendable rods, energy-absorbent walls. This is a table hockey game that players age 8 to 80 can enjoy. Even better, the exceptional quality and design allows for the game to stand up to the intensity of tournaments, why SOHO Table Hockey is the #1 choice of championship players throughout North America. Go ahead, drop the puck. You'll love SOHO Table Hockey so much you won't be able to stop playing. Visit SOHOTableHockey.com to learn more. All right, so you know what? It's one of those things where years ago, I feel like it's deja vu all over again where, I kind of always sold the devil, sold the devil saying, it's their defense, they're not going anywhere. And then all of a sudden you turn around and in the Stanley Cup Finals. I kind of feel I'm almost doing the same with the Islanders. And Mike and I both say they're the luckiest team, but AJ correctly said you make your own luck. They are so defensively sound. They capitalize. I won't say they capitalize on every mistake because they don't have the high-end offensive players to do that, but they capitalize on 20% of them, and considering that they don't give up many chances, that's all they need. However, Boston came to the Coliseum and did what they needed to do. They kept home ice advantage. It's a best of 3 now. How do you see the rest of this series playing out, Russ? Yeah.
It's not just their fourth line though. Even their skill guy, Matt Barzal, he was playing incredibly physical the last 2 games at least.
And you take a look at contribution people like Travis Sajak, who's a forgotten man in the regular season. Player goes down injured, he comes into the lineup. He's in the rotation and contributing.
You take a look at some of the other series. Mark Scheifele gets a suspension. You know, and it's interesting because the hit almost coincided with the end of a little bit after the end of the Knicks game. So I watched the end of the Knicks game and watched them exit the court. I switched over, and that's when the open net was there. And you know, it was hard to look at. You know, took him off on the stretcher. Scheifele's not a dirty player. You know, it was one of those things. I think he was trying to catch up. I mean, I think the frustration, you know, came out in him. What do you make of the suspension, and do you think it was a dirty hit? Yeah. And lastly, some of the noises we're hearing now is that Tocchet has gone to maybe the head of the list. He's had his second interview with MSG. What are you hearing? Right. Yeah, Brenda Moore would be the guy for me for sure. And the other thing is maybe if you know, the axe falls in Pittsburgh, they might be making a call there as well. Okay. All right. We will speak to you next week. Russ Cohen here each and every week with the Soho Table Hockey Report. Quick break, and the other side, we're going to what are we doing after the break here, AJ? We're doing papers and then basketball. All right. Keep it tuned right here.
Sound better? Yeah, I'm great. You ready? Yeah. All right, we're gonna do Sunday papers and we'll get right in.
Are you doing Sunday papers first, right?
I like Toshe, by the way. I like Tocchet a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not that sold on
You get a
Tocchet.
lot with nothing in Arizona.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Sunday papers. It's amazing that I hear this every week, and I love Joe Jackson, but you know what? You know how like you can tell Alexa play? What I haven't done that, and I'm gonna start doing that. Look Sharp. I'm gonna go listen to Look Sharp tonight.
Go ahead and do it.
All right, what do you got?
So, you remember the great Warner Wolf used
Yes.
to have a feature called Boo of the Week?
Yes.
Well, we have a Boo of the Week, and it's out of Canton, Ohio, which is the headquarters of the National Football League Hall of Fame. And it has to do with a high school football coach and a player who was a Hebrew Israelite, which is not Jewish, but it's different in certain some things, including not eating pork, who missed a weightlifting session. And the coach and his assistants decided to punish the player by putting him into a room with a pepperoni pizza. As the entire team lifted weights around him, make him eat the pepperoni pizza, knowing he doesn't eat pork and will eat pepperoni. And needless to say, the good news to follow up with that is so far 78 coaches have now been fired for this, although strangely some of the players are rallying in the coach's defense. It's wacky, it's bad, it is truly the Warner Wolf patent pending Boo of the Week.
I'm so glad you went with this story as opposed to the other one. You can tell people to look up the other one, but please don't.
The other one carries the headline, "Bodybuilder who wed 2 sex dolls is now open, just open to dating humans."
Okay.
It's out of Kazakhstan.
All right.
Enough said.
Exactly. All right. We'll talk NBA with CHAYIM, TAUBER, and AJ and I had this little conversation, and I'm gonna throw the first question, then AJ is gonna take it from there. For me, it's very interesting that even me as the casual basketball fan, and casual is not even the word. It's like it's at the very bottom of my totem pole. But the Knicks were in the playoffs. The Knicks were in the playoffs. I bought in. I watched, and I find it fascinating for me as an outsider looking in that in the New York area, the Brooklyn Nets are somewhat irrelevant. I think the story here in New York, as long as the Knicks were in the playoffs, were the Knicks. And Brooklyn, though, around the country is a bigger story than they were here in their own backyard. Do you agree or disagree with that, Chaim, and why?
So let's talk about the Nets for 1 second. Last night, in the first minute and a half of the game, James Harden goes down for what could be a re-injury of his hamstring. They go on, they beat the Bucks. Can they continue this in a 7-game series? I mean, the Bucks are a very, very, very good team. Do you think that this was just as the adrenaline is going, they could do it for 1 game? Or how serious is it for the prospects of the whole series if Harden doesn't come back? Yeah.
Well, the other thing is, you mentioned how the Nets are the basketball story. For me, again, as that casual basketball fan, the NBA story is that it's the first time in a long time that LeBron James is not in let alone the finals.
You also talk about the second team in the town. The Clippers made it past the Mavs.
Right,
The Clippers are there, and the Lakers
are not. So, how big of an impact on the fringe basketball players will it be not having LeBron, going far in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you're saying about LeBron means that it's all pretty much set in stone that he will be a Knick now that he's at the other end of his career. No. All right, Chaim, that was a joke. All right, Chaim, thanks so much. Chaim Tauber here each and every week with the NBA report. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to close it out with the CAPCO NFL report with Jay RECHER right after this message.
Hey, Jay, you ready to go? All right, sounds good.
And we're in the home stretch. Welcome back to Sports Talk New York on the 365 Sportscast Network. It's time now for the CAPCO NFL report with Jay RECHER. Even though it's spring, summer will be here before you know it. It feels like summer already.
Well, it's summer. It's, after Memorial Day,
that's true.
effectively summer.
Over 90 degrees today. I say it's summer. It's time to let the fresh air in and the bugs out with the Clearview retractable screen. Clearview retractable screen system comes standard with a lifetime warranty and the patented speed reducer, so it will not snap back. You get the luxury of a screen door, a sleek, low-profile design without the hassle of a bulky storm door or sliding screen door. Call 631-440-1100 for a free estimate. That's 631-440-1100. Visit them on the web at clearviewlongisland.com. It's very interesting in reading that, okay? It's the patented speed reducer, so it won't snap back, but you get the luxury of a screen door in a sleek, low-profile design. If you take a look at that. No, but the patent speed reducer might be for some of the safeties that are going to now have to go against the Titans. Big trade in the NFL. Why don't you break it down for us, Jay? Jay, you there? I think we might have lost Jay.
We've had some issues with our phone.
No, we had Jay. But
Jay's still there? Jay's on the phone. Well, look.
I guess we lost him. So
the Tennessee Titans get Julio Jones for some high draft picks. They got the second-round pick. But this gives Ryan Tannehill somebody to throw to, and it's an upgrade, I hate to say it, over Corey Davis, who went to the Jets. But you come to LeBron James at the tail end of his career is Julio Jones. Julio Jones is a great receiver. But Julio Jones also has trouble staying on the field. He gets hurt a bit. So, it's a good move. Probably it's a really good move. The Titans are very, very excited. Mike, if you shaking your head on this, what do you think? Does this make them, Las Vegas has them going from a 35-1 shot to win Super Bowl to a 30-1.
Yeah, it's not a huge.
That's a marginal upgrade.
Yeah, marginal and they gave up a lot of draft picks. I agree. I mean,
but is it what they need?
I mean, I think Julio Jones, when he is healthy, is still one of the best receivers in football. And then Ryan Tannehill seems like he reinvented his career in Tennessee.
Well, once he got away from Adam Gase.
Right. But is that combination, does that strike fear? Like, if you're looking at the schedule, are the Titans a team that you're afraid of? I mean, are there a team that I don't think they're a juggernaut. Yes, 35-1 to 30. How appreciable is that? How much did they give up? And if he can't stay on the field, did they give up too much? But listen, like you said, draft picks are a crapshoot. He's a known commodity. They've upgraded their team.
What's going on in Atlanta? Is it truly rebuilding mode for them? Matt Ryan, did they draft a quarterback? Mike, I don't know if they did.
I believe they
did.
No, I think they took a tight end.
Tight end, I thought, yeah.
And, is Matt Ryan, he's at the tail end of his career, who's he going to throw to?
Right.
Are they throwing in the towel in the season? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? You talk about tanking. Can you tank in June?
And Ryan, I think, is still a serviceable quarterback. I don't think he's that far at the end of his career. I mean, the guy.
Something happened in Atlanta that truly, the relationship between Julio Jones and the Falcons broke down and was irreparable. All
right. We hope you enjoyed it. If you missed the interview, you'll be able to listen to the podcast of Jim Lampley. Next week, we have Ron Bloomberg, so make sure you stay tuned and to BT Talks Baseball next and tune back in next week. And, don't even tune in next week. Just stay here and listen to all the great program on the 365 Sportscast Network. Have a safe one. Enjoy the beautiful weather here in New York and throughout the country and wherever you're listening. So have a great week, everybody.